And the hour of 1 o'clock having arrived, I'm going to call to order the Subcommittee on Legislative Reform. The clerk will take the roll.
Bilowski.
Bilowski present.
Bilowski present. Wolgamott.
Wolgamott present.
Wolgamott present. Doubt.
Present.
Doubt present. Freiberg.
Present.
Freiberg present. Garofalo. Garofalo. Haley.
Present.
Haley present. Liz Lagarde.
Liz Lagarde present.
Liz Lagarde present. Moran. Moran. O'Neill.
Still present.
O'Neill present. Pinto.
Pinto present.
Pinto present. Sandsted.
Sandsted present.
Sandsted present. Garofalo.
Garofalo present.
Garofalo present. Moran. Mr. Chair, a quorum is present.
Thank you. Representative Wolgamott, do you have a motion for us?
Mr. Chair, I have thoroughly reviewed the minutes for the January 29th, 2021 meeting of this committee, and I would like to move their approval.
Representative Wolgamott moves the minutes. Is there any discussion? Seeing no discussion, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed, nay? Motion prevails. The minutes are approved. Members, I'm going to make a couple of introductory comments, then we'll move on with the agenda. We're not going to take any action today, and we're not doing that for a couple of reasons. We have a number of bills coming in from members that hopefully we'll be hearing this coming week. And as those bills come in, we will inform all of you in advance so you know what those bills are. We also are having the chairs taking a look at the selection of executive orders, those in particular that were sent to us in a letter on January 7th. And you've seen some of those already in your committees. If you want a list of all of the bills that relate to those executive orders, we're preparing that and we can send it to all of the members. So with that, Representative Doubt, your proposal is first. So how do you wish to proceed?
Actually, Mr. Chair, if it's okay, Representative Haley has some testifiers that are joining for her bill. If we could just reverse the two, that might be better.
Absolutely, we'll do that. Thank you for the suggestion. That's a good idea. Representative Haley, to House File 371, and I know you have an amendment. Do you want to put that amendment on the bill at this time and then have your testifiers testify with the amendment, or would you wish just your testifiers to go first?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to put the amendment on, and there was also a DE amendment. The dates were wrong on the DE, and so I forwarded that to Mr. Worth. I can do that verbally as well. I think it got to the committee members just before the start of the hearing today.
All right, Mr. Worth or Mr. Blauvelt, do you have the change in the amendment or the other changes that you would wish on the bill?
Mr. Chair, yes, the amendment was distributed just a few minutes before the committee was come to order, and the A1 amendment should be adopted to the DE amendment.
Is there any discussion to the amendment to the DE amendment? Seeing no discussion, all those in favor of adopting that amendment signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed, nay? The amendment to the DE amendment has been adopted. So Representative Haley, to your amendment as amended.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I am disappointed in the decision not to have a vote on this today, but I'd like to proceed by introducing my bill and having my testifiers speak to it, and maybe we can come back to that discussion later in the committee hearing. The House File 371 as amended is a very simple bill. It brings the people of Minnesota back to the table. It provides the legislature with an avenue to affirm an executive order issued by the governor during this peacetime emergency. It brings clarity to our legislative role by establishing that each executive order must be ratified by a majority vote of both chambers. If they are not ratified after 14 days, they would expire. It also provides for the timeline to address the current executive orders that are in place by establishing a deadline that those must be ratified by March 13th, which is frankly a year since we have been operating under emergency powers. I also want to state before my testifiers begin that our preference clearly is to end this peacetime emergency. We have been operating under this state for nearly a year. We have voted on that also 10 times in the House chambers. But as the majority, you have made it clear that you are not interested in that vote. And so we have to face this current reality. And our constituents are asking us to make a change. Frankly, they are pleading and begging with us each day as their lives are being so dramatically affected and many lives, frankly, ruined by some of the states of these emergency orders. So my proposal is doing just that. It is providing a first step, an avenue to move forward and to help all Minnesotans. I will talk more about that, but I would like to turn it over to my testifiers so that they can give some commentary. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
To the testifiers, the first person I have on the list is Michael Apps, Minnesota resident. Mr. Apps, are you there? Is he muted?
Oh, is that better? Can you hear me now?
We can hear you now.
All right.
Welcome to the committee, and please identify yourself for the record.
Hi, my name is Michael Asp, resident of St. Paul, Minnesota.
All right, proceed.
Hi, so my name is Michael Asp, St. Paul resident. I own and operate more than 10 restaurant locations in and around the metro area, spanning from St. Paul to Minneapolis to some of the further western suburbs, all the way out to Excelsior, and are planning on opening 2 more locations in the next 60 to 90 days, one in Edina and one in downtown Wayzata. I wanted the opportunity today to be able to share my concerns and frustrations with what feels to me the inability of all citizens to have their voices and their opinions heard through the existing kind of two-party system that we currently have in the state of Minnesota. I feel a lot of citizens, including myself, I strongly believe, and I actually don't like when there's one party that has all power, both federal or state or whatever you want to go to that level, where it becomes too much of groupthink and common think. I think that the way that the state of Minnesota is set up with a Democratic governor, Republican-controlled Senate, and a Democratic-controlled House creates a really unique opportunity for bipartisanship that allows all people's opinions to be heard and to be shared. And I think that's something that we're really missing. My frustrations have been where talking with David Baker, Representative Baker, as a gentleman with significant experience as being an owner-operator, we've not been given the opportunity, I feel like, to have the discussion. We're not saying, I think from where we sit with restaurants, we realize that this has been an immensely challenging time. In March and April, I can think of the fear level from all people involved in terms of we all need to basically button down and make sure we're good here. I feel like now as a year has gone by, I don't feel like there's been enough discussion and enough fairness to hearing our opinion and having that discussion about how do we work together versus having one individual with pure executive power across, really kind of the entire state. Thank you.
Members, do we have any questions? Mr. Asp.
Hi, Mr. Chair.
Okay, it's Representative Moran. I
Yes, that
recognize
is.
the voice. I just don't see where you are on the screen. But
That
okay,
is
Representative Moran.
Yeah, well, first I want to thank Mr. Apps for testifying today. I know he stated he was a St. Paul resident. I represent District 65 in St. Paul. So one, I'm just wondering, where do he live in St. Paul? And he seems to have several businesses, and I was interested also in where this business in St. Paul located, if you have one in St. Paul.
Yeah,
Mr. Epps,
we have.
Mr. Epps, if you could just go through the chair, that would be great. Just say Mr. Chair and then the rep's name. That would just be a little bit easier for the record.
Okay, say that.
Mr. Epps.
Say that again. Sorry, this is my first time doing something like this.
I know that's fine, and it's a little cumbersome too on this medium. When you reply, just say Mr. Chair and then the representative's name. So it would be either Mr. Chair, Representative Moran, or Representative Pulowski, Representative Moran, and then we'll just go back and forth. The audio record is what some people listen to, and that way they know how we're communicating. So, okay. Mr. Adams.
Okay, Mr. Chair, and I apologize, I didn't hear the representative's last name who asked me the question.
Representative Moran.
Right. So, Mr. Chair, Mr. Moran, yeah, we own and operate 3 places in St. Paul. We have Agriculture, which is in Highland Park, LaGrolla on Selby Avenue, and this past year we just opened Yumi, which is also on Selby Avenue in the old Fabulous Ferns location.
Representative Moran.
Yes, Mr. Chair, thank you. So, Mr. Abs, I heard you talk about the legislative process and, the bipartisan. We are the only bipartisan legislature in the country. How are your business doing? And I heard you're going to be opening up another business soon. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so Mr. Chair, Mr. Moran, Mrs. Moran, our business has been, since the reopening, our in-store dining is still down in the 30-40% range on a year-over-year basis. Our primary challenges, as you all know, is that, Fridays and Saturdays during the prime hours between, say, 5:30 and 8:30, we're full, we're busy, but the capacity restrictions is what is kind of driven the decline in the year-over-year. A couple of our locations, the takeout piece has come back that offsets that. So, for example, I was looking at some numbers today, and if LaGrolla it was down the last month about 10 to 15% year-over-year, and we're just getting into the annual for Yumi St. Paul, so I don't have any year-over-year. Agriculture Park is down in the 30% year-over-year range. The reason for that being down more is that that concept had been more focused around lunch and business, and as we all sit at a Zoom call, and the lack of lunch meetings and the lack of all those kind of sales meetings has definitely impacted that as well. As the fact of the matter, there's a lack of business catering dollars. To your question on opening new locations, yes, we had committed before COVID. As you can imagine, the timelines and the planning to do locations is not an overnight situation. So yeah, we had committed and are still moving forward with it. I personally am very positive about the long-term view of the hospitality industry once we are able to work through this pandemic, and I think having people get back to living is kind of one of the things I've talked about. Living safely, not in fear, but living safely.
Representative Moran. Mr. Chair, one last question. Mr. Alps, have you been able to access any of the dollars that we have allocated for small businesses?
Mr. Chair, Mrs. Moran, yes, we absolutely were able to participate in the overall grant from the Minnesota Department of Revenue. Not all of our locations qualified for those due to the sales decline during the particular period. And then actually today we just got notification, which is also a product of the bill, is the Hennepin County looks like they've just approved their most recent round of notifications as well for our locations that are in Hennepin County.
Right. Thank you so much. Thank you for being here. Thank you for testifying. Appreciate it.
Thank you for the questions.
I see that Representative Baker is with us today too. And Representative Baker, if you wish to participate, you're very welcome to do so. So welcome to the committee. Representative Garofalo.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to know if the testifier was going to be available for further questions later on.
I would assume if he would be, but if you want to ask your question now, feel free to do so.
No, just how sometimes as these things evolve, we have conversations, we might sometimes like to go back to testifiers to ask them follow-up questions. So just wanted to know if you'd be available to stay on or not.
Mr. F., how long do you plan on being with us today?
Mr. Chair, to Mr. Garofalo, I'm available all day, and anytime anybody would like to reach out after this, I'm also as well available. Representative Baker has all of my contact information, both phone and email. So I'm available to talk today as long as needed or in the future.
Well,
Representative
thank you,
Grosso?
Mr. Chairman. Thank you, and Mr. Asp. Yeah, if you could stay on the call, if you're available. It's just good to. Usually, we don't have the resources of small business owners available to us on these calls. So if you have the ability to stay on and it's not a burden, that would be appreciated. And I would ask that of each of our testifiers today. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, Representative Pinto.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and my apologies that my video is not working well, and so it seems like you can hear me okay. And again, my apologies to you and to the rest of the committee. So to the testifier, I represent the Highland Park area. I've been to agriculture and really appreciated being there. I've been to Lagrola and the other resources that you provide in our community. And I know that this time has hugely impacted the hospitality sector and restaurants and bars. And I guess I just want to get your perspective on something that I've been thinking through and struggling with a bit, which is that we've sort of sometimes felt like there's a tension between the health aspects of this, making these closures to protect health, but then the impact on commerce and on business as well. And I guess what I'm wondering about is, it's occurred to me that sometimes those things are not in tension in the sense that, if you have the virus and illnesses running rampant, I think there has been some data showing that people gathering together in certain situations, maybe in bars, if they are seated really close with one another in restaurants, we expressed some concern about capacity constraints. But of course, if the virus is really rampant in society, people won't want to go out to eat in that situation either. And there's just a tension that we see in that. I just want to get your perspective as a small business owner, restaurant owner, as we think about those issues, if you understand my question.
Yeah. Mr. Afson, that was Representative Pinto that asked the question.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Mr. Pinto. Thank you for the question. It's a really difficult and challenging dynamic when you're involving yourself in a public environment where people were at one point so fearful of even being anywhere near anybody, right? People are going 10, 12 feet walking down River Parkway. I think what has been executed over the past, I can't believe it's 11 months already, has been, the rules that have been put in place with regards to how we operate. And I think it's also very, very important to remember that restaurants, before all of this happened, were also one of the most regulated industries in all of the Minnesota Department of Health. From a lot of the requirements that had come out from the Minnesota Department of Health with regards to cleaning and sanitation, food safety, all the things that we have been doing are required to do for years were basically reiterated. And I think it kind of was one of the frustrations I think that restaurants had coming out of this was the feeling that it was, we're the bad guys. But at the same time, the rules we put in place to be safety and to live safely, when I speak for myself and a lot of my fellow restaurant owners, I feel we have done an amazing job executing and attempting to run our businesses, attempting to make our customers feel happy, safe. As I've talked with Representative Baker before, I said, I'm a big believer in everyone has a choice. And if a person doesn't feel comfortable going to any of a retail location, somebody's house, a meeting, I would not want them coming into one of my locations and not feeling safe and happy. It's not going to end well for them. My staff have put in uncomfortable situations. It's not a win. So I think the goal in all of this is that, we feel we've done an amazing job with making people who want to come out and sharing with them the ability we can do this safely. We can do it correctly. I personally was never going to have the situation where I've seen where people are making the overly political statement and the constitutional argument, we're not shutting down, we're not following any rules. To me, that was almost a really very, very short-sighted opinion. I get when people are backed into corners, we make decisions sometimes that aren't always what we feel proud of or whatnot. But, for my locations, we have followed all of the rules, and we're just really looking for an opportunity, I think, as we go and move forward on ways that we can have conversations back to say, hey, we're now through 11 months of this. What are we thinking about to move forward to say, how do we get back to living? How do we get back to being closer to normal? I'm not saying tomorrow it's like this never happened, right? But having the discussions and having the rules in place with health, I feel that my customers, and we monitor this real closely with regards to safety and whatnot, I think they all feel really, really good about coming back again, because I don't think anybody at this point wants to be in situations where it's uncomfortable. I've heard the pieces at night. I agree, actually, in a lot of these places where some of these nightclubs and whatnot. It's a really tough thing when you go to concerts and whatnot. I feel so badly for those people. But I think in the restaurant environment, and I'm talking my own book on this, with regards to what we've gone through and required to still do, we can do this really safely. And I continue to think that we continue to do it more safely as we begin to kind of pull back some of the additional restrictions.
Representative Pinto.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you so much, sir, for those comments. I guess maybe just one final piece to elicit from you is that I guess I caught in your response to a certain extent that the restrictions or the regulations need to adjust to fit changing circumstances as well. Just as you were describing, early on, if there are spikes, if there's data that says certain things, you kind of talk about nightclubs, et cetera, and kind of needing to be responsive to make those adjustments to then fit what's gonna work for society, then cause people to be able to be comfortable going out. So you say you don't want people coming out uncomfortable. Just any comment on those thoughts at all, and then Mr. Chair, that'll be it.
Mr. Asp.
Mr. Chair, Mr. Pinto, can you rephrase your question just so I answer it correctly? I don't want to feel like I'm being too vague on the response.
All right, Representative Pinto.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, and perhaps the question was too vaguely worded as well, sir. I was just asking about what I was hearing in your response was the need to adjust to changing circumstances and changing times. You kind of talked about restaurants making adjustments over time, patrons doing so, and when there's kind of talked about the early days of the pandemic, and just wondering if you're thinking that as circumstances change, we need to be changing the restrictions as well. I'm hoping that makes it a little more clear.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, thank you for rephrasing the question so I understand it better. The way I would describe back, I'll go back to kind of early March of 2020, and during the initial shutdown, I absolutely 100% agreed with the decision because of how many unknowns that were out there with regards to the virus, how it was going to be treated, spread, all the unknowns. There's a lot of fear, correct? And I do believe that as we've gone over the past year, I've not been a huge fan personally of some of the ups and downs, the puts and takes in terms of the time it's been given to us to be able to plan. And I think we all plan our lives, but planning for businesses and making decisions that impact a lot of people has been very difficult with the starts and stops. But I really think that as we move forward now, and I feel like we are with the vaccinations coming through, I really think it's time to start having discussions around where are we going to go back to living. That's kind of the phrase I've liked to use, has been like back to living Minnesota. How do we get back to living? And I want to do it safely, but I would like to have the discussions about, well, what do we need to do, or what do we need to see to have some of these restrictions that can help us get back to living, get us back to normal. I've heard the comments before in the questions, and I said the federal government has stepped up recently. The state of Minnesota did a great job, I felt, with regards to how, helping a lot of in trouble small businesses. But I'll be honest, as a small business owner, I always joke about there's three things in life that I generally don't like to do. Is I don't like to lose money, I don't like to be dependent on the federal government, and I don't like to make bad business decisions. And it's like I feel like I speak for a lot of people. Like, we want to get back to normal so we don't have to be dependent anymore on any government operations in terms of financial dependence. I don't think any small business owner feels very good at all about putting their hand up and saying, yeah, I want more money because I can't do this, right? And that's not a fun situation.
Representative Pinto.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you to the testifier.
Representative Lislegard.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And to the testifier, you brought up a really good point, and I just wanted to share that, the concern that you have about the starts and the stops, that was felt across the state with small businesses, and it's real. And I want you to know that I'm working on a bill that will address that, both from a financial standpoint and from a standpoint of proper notification. Because, when you're talking about perishables and you don't have proper notification and you order it and then you get shut down and you're stuck with this product, that is a concern, and we feel it. I want you to know that I'm going to be bringing a bill forward as we're working through this process about possible reform, that will be addressed shortly. And I also want to talk about consumer confidence. And, my fear is that some people just say, open everything up. well, we can open everything up. And if people don't feel safe, if there's not consumer confidence, you are still in a position of struggle long term. So I think that, as we shape this conversation moving forward, that I want you to know that we're going to be bringing bills forward to address that one concern. And then we're also going to be thinking about consumer confidence and protecting people. So thank you for everything that you do and what you bring forth.
Representative Haley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I appreciate the testifier and the discussion. And I would just like to make the point for committee members. This is the point of my bill, that these are the types of discussions that the legislature needs to be involved with before emergency orders are crafted. This is exactly what hasn't happened for 11 months. To my knowledge, the legislature hasn't held any hearings before an executive order or after an executive order. And 11 months have gone by and we have not had the opportunity like we've had today for the very first time to hear from a business owner on what's not working. So I'd like to refocus on the bill and allow my other testifiers to speak, because this is exactly the point of what I brought forward today, is a path forward so that we can have the engagement of Mr. Asp and the rest of us can be involved in crafting laws as we are hired to do in this position. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Representative Haley, over the last couple of weeks, I have had individual meetings with all of our chairs to address your concern. And we are now in the process of seeing those chairs have hearings on a selection of executive orders. So I'm hopeful that that will also aid us in our deliberations here. Mr. Apps, do you wish to respond to Representative Haley?
I didn't need a response, Mr. Chair.
All right. If there are no more questions of Mr. Asp, I'm going to move to the next testifier. Is it Miss Kate Larson? Ms.
Correct.
Larson, welcome to the committee, and please identify yourself for the record.
I'm Dr. Kate Larson. I'm from Red Wing, Minnesota.
Proceed.
All right. I'm in the fitness industry. I'm a physical therapist and own a lifestyle gym in Red Wing. Thank you for the opportunity to share insight with you today. The challenges of COVID have presented the fitness industry with the need for more collaboration, more problem solving, and more communication, sharing data and best practices and things like that throughout the fitness industry, and trying to distill that out into the public so they understand what we're doing. Throughout this year, Representative Haley has physically visited our gym and has been the voice that we didn't feel like we had at the state level. So she has visited us to learn more about the financial impacts of some of the decisions made, the safety measures that we're able to take to keep our clients safe, and the impact on us as small business owners and on our clients. She did this to make sure we had a voice as an industry and that our clients were also heard. And these people rely on us to be healthy and happy. So it's part of her job to make sure that all of those voices are heard, not just us as business owners. But when she brings our feedback back to the Capitol and we see monologue versus dialogue, I don't feel that we're allowing our representatives to do their jobs and be our voices. So my hope is that Barb and other representatives are able to bring our feedback back to meaningful conversations and that we can have dialogue at all levels of the state.
Ms. Larson, or Dr. Larson, where is your gym?
In Red Wing.
Where in Red Wing?
Right by Tile Drive.
All right. My father was the golf professional at Red Wing Country Club. I grew up in Red Wing. I'm very familiar with Red Wing, and I drive through it on my trips to the Capitol at least once a week. So you may have another visitor now that I know where you are.
Sounds
so
good.
Thank you for testifying. Members, any questions of Dr. Larson? No questions. The next person I have on the list is Dave Riggleman. Mr. Riggleman, welcome to the committee, and please identify yourself for the record.
My name is Dave Riggleman, and I'm a parent. I live in Red Wing, Minnesota as well, and was asked to join in that committee meeting with.
Proceed, Mr. Riggleman.
Mr. Chairman, am I the only one who's not hearing the audio?
No, we all are not hearing the audio right now. I don't know what, I don't know if he's on mute or if there's a broadband issue here.
Well, if maybe if we could advise the testifier to call in on a phone, maybe that would be better so we can hear them, because I don't hear anything at all.
I can hear some distortion. Mr. Riggleman, can you hear us? The suggestion has been made. Mr. Riggleman, the suggestion has been made you might want to call in on the phone. If you do that, you might want to mute your computer when you call in so there isn't feedback.
Mr. Chairman, while we wait for the witness to call in, can I ask a question of the previous testifier?
I had you on the list, so Representative Garofalo.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Chairman. And Dr. Larson, are you still there?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
Dr. Larson, can you update us? What is the current status of, like, how much are you guys shut down? What are you allowed to do right now?
Dr. Larson.
Yes, Mr. Chair. We are at, our particular facility does very small group personal training. So we have 12 people in a class in a 44 by 80 foot building with a little bit of office space and whatnot. But we have a 99 person capacity, and I believe it's 25%. We don't get close to that. So when we are looking at our numbers, it's more that we can't have two programs running at the same time anymore. Previously, we would be able to have something in our yoga space and something in our main space and a couple of office clients. But right now we need to limit it to one service at a time.
Mr. Chairman and Dr. Larson, so obviously there's been a focus on COVID, on reducing infections, hospitalizations, a shared goal we all have, but there's more and more data, finally the word is reaching people that there are consequences to these shutdowns, that there are consequences to people not being able to, for kids not being able to go to school, for people to not be able to go as part of their fitness routines. Can you talk about what it means to your clients to be able to access your services and what they're able to do as not, not looking at the narrow issue of COVID, but an overall personal, physical, and mental health well-being?
Yes, I can, Patrick.
Dr. Larson.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Chair and Patrick. Yes, we work with youth, and obviously their social habits are very changed right now. And the long-term repercussions physically from lack of physical activity, we already know that the obesity rates are going to be elevated for years to come from the lack of physical activity in our youth right now. Some of those studies are already coming out. The other things we know is that after people have, and this research was from SARS, but after they have a respiratory disease, if they don't challenge their respiratory system, they tend to have deficits for up to a year afterwards, versus people who were able to get their lungs moving and working and challenge them had far less repercussions for shorter periods of time. So it's not only in keeping people's immune systems and mental health and all of the physical things that they come to us for, but as a team member in treating preventing the disease and then treating the side effects afterwards. I feel that we're a very important part of that. And people come to us and say, I've had COVID. Can you help me get my lungs working again? And we take those people on.
Representative Garofalo.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's just as somebody who needs physical activity and fitness to not be bonkers, I'm one of those people. I'm fortunate enough that I have this. Maybe some people would say I'm bonkers anyway, but it's important to recognize that not everyone has access to those home facilities to be able to exercise at home, and particularly in cold weather where paths are iced over, and the ability to exercise outside. It's crucial for people's overall well-being, and that while some of these shutdown orders may have been the most well-intentioned, their singular focusing on COVID has caused secondary and tertiary problems, which are destroying people's lives. And people like you, small business owners like you, the services you provide, you are part of the solution. You are not the adversaries. You are not the problem here. And that the one-size-fits-all approach we're having, where one person is making decisions, that is actually hurting people. It's maybe well-intentioned, but it's hurting people. And I would hope that the committee takes your testimony seriously and understands it and puts that into action. So thank you, Doctor.
Dr. Larson, this is Representative Pawlowski. Did you say your facility was part of the Lifetime group?
We are a lifestyle medicine.
Lifestyle. All right.
College of
Thank
Lifestyle.
you. Representative Freiberg.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have some general questions for the bill author about the bill language, since there was some technical.
Representative Freiberg, we've got one more testifier that we have to get to, and I want to make sure that everyone has access to the testifiers. So could you save that until we're done with the testifiers?
Absolutely. Just wanted to be sure. Thank you.
Okay. Representative Haley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I've been texting with my testifier. He cannot get a good enough signal, but I do have some comments I can make on his behalf, and they'll just be brief. I apologize for the technical difficulties.
Sure. Representative Haley.
So my testifier, Dave Riggleman, is a parent of 3 kids, one in grade school, one in middle school, and one in high school. And he also is a professional who works from home. So he was going to talk about the challenges of that situation. But in particular, he wanted to focus on his kids and really all kids. And the severe impact of the lack of structure was one of his main concerns, that kids just need that routine and structure. Get up in the morning and get to school, see their teachers, see their friends, get to their activities. And that lack of structure is just, that's not what is normal in child development. And so that is a major concern that he had. In addition, he said, even in spite of the best teachers and all of the effort they put in, that distance learning is just not effective for the majority of kids. Some may succeed that way, but the majority do not, and need to have face-to-face daily, not every other day or every couple weeks, as they've been kind of in and out, but need that daily instruction and daily interaction with their teachers. And so his main concern, again, was how these executive orders have impacted children and learning, and the impact that we will feel as a state for a generation because of this. And a year, in his comments to me, a year is enough. We need to move forward, and he appreciated the opportunity to be able to share that today, because he hasn't had that voice for over a year. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Representative Haley. Do we have any other questions of the 2 testifiers we can communicate with from any members? Representative Sandstead, your hand's up.
My hand is up. My question is not for the testifiers. It's just a comment for Representative Haley. Would you like to take that now, or would you like to move on?
Representative Sandstead, proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Representative Haley, I am a teacher, and I understand the struggles that our students are having in the classroom, out of the classroom. I'm also a parent with 3 children who are trying to, work. I'm trying to work from home. My husband works from home. The kids are trying to do school from home. My children have special needs. I understand this, but I need to be very, very clear to you, to testifiers. This is the struggle that we are encountering is not just a result of executive orders. We're in a pandemic. Nobody wished for this. A pandemic is not a political device. It should not be as polarized as it is. We are here as a legislative body to try to address action to get us back to the best place we can be as a state. But I hope that we can have a balanced conversation and not just blame everything on executive orders. The foundation of all of this is a pandemic that nobody wished to bring. And it's here, and we're doing our best. I don't think there's a single one of us who has ever had the opportunity, the experience of a pandemic at all. So we're struggling, and we're all in this together. This is everybody's reality. We're doing the best we can.
Representative Wogemuth.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have a couple of questions for Representative Haley about her bill. Representative Haley, I'm correct in reading that under your proposal, for any executive order would have to receive approval from both the House and the Senate, or else it would expire after 2 weeks. That's correct, right?
Representative Haley.
That is correct, Representative Wogemuth.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, Representative Haley, I want to know how you came about that 2-week timeline. It seems a bit arbitrary to me, so I'm wondering how you came up with that 14-day timeline, And I'm also wondering if you consulted any public health experts or epidemiologists or healthcare workers when you came up with that 14-day timeline.
Representative Haley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Representative Wolgamott, for the question. First of all, for clarity, the existing executive orders that are in place, the deadline in my bill is actually March 13th. So that is more than 2 weeks. I felt it was necessary to really put a stake in the ground. The legislature is back in session. We are here to do this work. That is, fully over a month from now. So that would give us plenty of time to address the existing executive orders. And then the 14-day period would be for any orders that were issued by the governor after February 27th. The governor at this point, I think in the last, since we've been in session, the pace of new executive orders is about one every 30 days. So it didn't seem at all overwhelming to me or any type of unrealistic expectation of work for the legislature to consider an executive order in a 14-day time period. Your second part of your question was consulting experts. I have talked to CEOs of health systems. I have talked to providers. I have talked to, and the feedback that I've gotten from the providers and the care systems is that we are not in a state of panic about our hospital capacity, about our ICU capacity. We are in a very different spot today with close to 3% positivity rate, the lowest number of daily new cases since we've had since last fall. We don't need to drill into those stats on this committee discussion today because that's not the point. The point is, to Representative Stansteed as well, what I agree with her on is she said the legislature needs to have these discussions. We're all in this together. That is the exact point of my bill. Thank you for the question, Representative Wolgamott.
Representative Wolgamott.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for that answer, Representative Haley. One thing that I'm hearing a lot of concern about from my constituents are news reports about a variant in the virus that could be hitting Minnesota soon and the unpredictability that will bring. So I'm concerned that if there's an emergency that requires the governor to act quickly, again, say we see a big, another COVID spike caused by this new variant, I'm concerned that the language in this bill just puts us on an arbitrary clock. And I'm concerned that sort of leads us to a bias towards inaction. And I'm concerned that inaction could cost lives. So again, I thank you for bringing this forward. I think this is an important conversation, but I did want to express that concern with you and with the committee and with the public that we're not out of this yet. Just because we're all sick of COVID, we're all sick of social distancing and Zoom. We're not out of this yet. And this thing continues to change at a moment's notice. So I'm just concerned about that arbitrary clock could cost lives. Thank you very much, Representative Haley, and thank you, Mr. Chair.
Representative Freiberg.
Mr.
Sorry.
Chair, can I respond
Haley, you
to
wish
that?
to respond? Yes, sure.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. And Representative Wolgamott, again, to be clear in my language, this does not end the peacetime emergency. As much as I want to do that, my bill does not do that today. So if there was something that happens, the governor still has the authority to take action, and that could be issuing an executive order or taking other action. So I do not see, we'd have to move forward with the legislature involved in this process, and that is what my bill is addressing.
Representative Freiberg.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have actually a question for you first, Mr. Chair, and then a question for Representative Haley. So, I mean, I appreciate hearing from business owners and parents, hearing about how the executive orders have impacted them. It seems to me, though, that that's only one piece of a larger picture. I mean, it seems like we should also hear from representatives of the governor's office, as well as people who are at risk from COVID and depend on these executive orders, like the mask requirements or the physical distancing requirements to stay safe, or people who've lost loved ones to COVID, or people who have been intubated, or teachers with concerns about their safety and health, like Representative Sandstead mentioned. I'm just wondering, what's kind of the plan for the committee going forward? Are we going to hear from other stakeholders in this discussion as well?
Representative Freiberg, we had a rather detailed presentation from the governor's office over the last two hearings. So now we're proceeding in the direction of either legislation or with the doubt proposal, and then more legislation in the coming hearing next week. So if you have a specific question that you wish to have addressed by the governor's office, we probably can't do that today, but we can have it done at the next hearing.
I guess the governor's office, thank you, Mr. Chair. It's more just the other stakeholders, like people who are potentially have a health risk. I mean, like I said, I do think the business owners and parents have a very important message as part of this, but I feel like just to be balanced, we should hear from from since the issue of school children at home was brought up, I feel like we should hear from teachers to hear their perspective, and just from people who are at a potentially higher risk of catching COVID as well. So if you just take that under consideration, I would appreciate it. I do have a question. Yep, thank you. Do have a question for Representative Haley. I was surprised to see the amendment to your bill. I had some issues with the original bill, but it seemed like it did take a more moderate approach. The amendment that you put onto the bill here in this committee seems like a pretty dramatic departure. It does make it so executive orders automatically expire after new executive orders after a couple weeks, existing executive orders after a month or so. But Representative Wolgamott, I thought, had a good point about COVID variants. So I just generally don't understand how this creates better decision making. I mean, there is this could change very quickly. We've already seen it change very rapidly in the past, and we're giving both chambers of the legislature here. The legislature generally seems to be a body where inertia plays a big role, and the Senate can't even agree on wearing masks. Which is a pretty basic public health measure. It seems to me like a better approach would be to provide business owners resources that would make them whole. And I was really glad to hear Representative Liz Lagarde is working on such a proposal. And he also made a great point, I thought, about the need for consumer confidence out there, because terminating these executive orders, as your bill would do, isn't going to guarantee people will come back if they still don't feel safe in places. And his approach would have the benefit of not jeopardizing health by cutting off potentially life-saving executive orders if they're not legislatively approved by an arbitrary date. I mean, have you thought about maybe an approach such as his instead of this, pretty dramatic approach in your new proposal?
Representative Haley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Representative. I actually thought my adjustment to my bill and my DE here as amended was a better approach. And in response to some of my colleagues on your side of the aisle, your comments that the legislature takes a long time to act. So I put in some dates. We are back in session. This is the job we were hired to do by the constituents all over the state of Minnesota. So I thought the dates were a helpful measure that you would see building momentum and moving us forward quickly. And you have mentioned concerns about masks, concerns about school, concerns about additional funding to help businesses, all these things that you're bringing up. Those are obviously very important discussions. And I guess I need to kind of put that back in your lap and say, again, that is the point. These are important discussions that we are not having, and your opinions on them don't matter right now, because there's one person that gets to make the decision, and that is the governor. The legislature is not involved. That's the whole point of my bill. And the purview of this committee is not to solve in this committee with just our numbers, to solve all these issues that you've brought up. My understanding is the purview of this committee is to figure out the legislative process going forward. And then the entire legislative body, House and Senate, in the appropriate committees will wrestle with these decisions and bring them to the floor where we cast a vote. That's how we make laws. But unfortunately for the past year, we haven't been doing that. And we haven't been at the table, and the laws are being made by one person. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Representative Freiberg.
Just a comment. I guess I would disagree with the characterization that we're not tackling this. There's bills been introduced related to mask wearing, consumer protection in terms of price gouging. consumer protection in terms of wage garnishment. Representative Liz Lagarde mentioned the proposal he's working on. Liability protection, I know there's a bill on that. We've already actually voted on one on the House floor that's I think already been signed into law. So I guess I would push back a little bit that we're not tackling this issue. I just think setting arbitrary dates, particularly when we're seeing potentially more dangerous variants of COVID-19 is a dangerous practice. So thank you, Mr. Chair.
Representative Haley, you want to respond to that?
I'll let others who have their hand up.
All right. Representative Liz Lagarde.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and to the bill author, Representative Haley. I have no doubt that your heart is 100% pure in trying to do the right thing for the people in the state of Minnesota. You're a hard worker, and I appreciate everything you're doing. We've had conversations, but I do have a little concern with what you're proposing. And while it sounds good, we've already seen a demonstration by the Senate, and frankly, out of your own words today, that you want all the powers to go away. And in your proposal, regardless if we want to work on something or not, the Senate can just crush everything and end it. Nothing would ever go if they chose not to. So basically, we'd be relinquishing after 14 days all the power to the Senate, whether our body, our House, our 134 members agreed with it or not. And so I guess, would you be willing or open to considering that either the House or the Senate could sign off on executive order?
Representative Haley.
Thank you, Representative Liz Lagarde. Thanks for your comments. And you and I have had a chance to talk about this issue as well this week, and I appreciate your engagement and the willingness to talk in a bipartisan fashion. So I appreciate the partnership there. I think, again, it's up to this committee, as we're doing, to debate this bill and to vote on something. We can debate it and amend it in this committee, and I would love to have a vote on this and pass it out of the committee so that the entire body can consider it going forward. The way that we make laws, though, in this state does require a House and a Senate vote. So up to that point, I think we go back to our legislative process, and one body can't create the laws without the other.
Representative Liz Lagarde.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Representative Haley. But if we brought that forward, the Senate on the other side, if they agreed to it, they could choose, if we didn't like an executive order, they could move forward with it. So they would still have the right to vote on your bill if you were to accept that. Because I do think, in all honesty, they have been very clear that they want it all to go away. And I shared with you and your colleagues my concern about just eliminating everything. And I'm not there, and I want to work our way through it. But if your bill goes forward, it doesn't matter what I work on. It's just over if the Senate doesn't want it. And so that's my concern. I would really like, obviously we're not going to make a decision today, but if you'd be willing and open to make an amendment that either the House or the Senate could sign off on executive order. And if it passed our House with that attached, then the Senate could make, because I think this is a compromise, moving forward. So that's just what I would ask, if you would be considered moving forward.
Representative Haley.
Thank you, Representative Liz Lagarde. I guess determining what the Senate does or doesn't do isn't my job. My job is to work as a representative in the House, and I don't think the Senate's action has deterred House members in the past from doing what we think is best for Minnesotans, and then working in partnership with them to forge a compromise. We have to take the step first. That's what I consider my job to do, and that's why I brought this proposal forth today.
Representative
Liz Lagarde, you have any last comment on that?
No, just Mr. Chair and Representative Haley, I thank you for everything that you do, and I look forward to continuing to work on this moving forward. Thank you.
Representative Garofalo.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Representative Liz Lagarde, for your comments. Representative Haley, thank you for bringing this bill forward. we keep dancing around the underlying issue, which is who decides this stuff, right? Whether it's shutting down fitness centers, whether it's keeping kids out of the classrooms, who is making these decisions? And we have lived under a process, we're coming up on a year now, where one person has made all these decisions. So from my perspective, anything that gets the legislature in any way more involved is a good thing. Now, you and I are in alignment on what we should be doing, but what Representative Lislegard just said there, at least that's something, right? At least it would require legislators to go on record saying, yes, I think it's a good idea to shut down fitness centers in the middle of a pandemic, even though the data says we don't need to do this. At least we would have legislators coming out saying, no, we're going to keep kids out of the classroom, even though the Center for Disease Control chief has said we don't have to have everyone vaccinated to get the kids back in school, right? So at least there's some movement on that. So Representative Lislegard, thank you for at least being part of the dialogue and being constructive. Representative Haley, you must be in a tough spot here. Don't you kind of get the impression that maybe a couple of DFLers in the committee aren't reading your bill? Is that you kind of getting that impression that they actually didn't read your bill?
Representative Haley, you want to respond?
I think it points out, Representative Garofalo, how badly we all, Democrats and Republicans, how badly we all want to be part of this discussion. Because this is what I keep saying hired, because that's what I feel the voters hire us. The constituents hire us to come to St. Paul to advocate on their behalf. And the interest and the passion in this discussion from all of us across the table shows that that's what we need to do. And I don't think we can abdicate that responsibility any longer. It's been 11 months. And that is my question. When is this going to end?
Well, Mr. Chairman and Representative Haley, I certainly agree that when we hear the comments of people like Chair Pulowski, the actions of Representative Sandstead, Representative Lislegard, I do agree with your statement. I do think that applies to them. But I also hear Representative Wolgamott talk with the do nothing, delay, and dither strategy that we're just going to, that Tim Walz is benevolent. And he's just done such a great job with this. In defending inaction as somehow that the status quo of one person making all decisions, well, we don't, if that's the case, if this is just going to be a legislative session where we're going to defer to Tim Walz, we don't need to have legislators voting. We can just go down to Como Zoo, we'll train Sparky the sea lion with a bucket of fish to press the buttons that we tell him to. But I want to thank those members of the DFL who are actually being constructive and recognizing that these orders should not be indefinite and that the legislature should play an affirmative role in making sure that that these things are validated. They just don't go on in perpetuity, that we just don't blindly follow Tim Walz off a cliff into educational and economic oblivion. So thank you for that. And for those members of the DFL who aren't willing to do your jobs, who aren't willing to stand up, and you're not willing to advocate for your constituents so that your constituents actually have a voice, well, shame on you. Shame on you for sitting on the sidelines and now letting Tim Walz make all the decisions so that you can be comfortable. Shame on you. So Representative Haley, Representative Lislegard, thank you for affirming the fact that we need legislators taking affirmative action to validate these decisions, not sitting passively like political road bumps on the side of the road. Thank you.
Representative Dowd.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a comment in response to Representative Lislegard's compromise that he offered. I would say I think Representative Haley's bill is a compromise, but I certainly think in theory what Representative Lislegard sounds really great, but the flip side of that is what we're under right now. If you think the Senate can block anything, that's what's happening right now. The House is blocking the legislature from having any voice in this process whatsoever. When this started, I think there was a need for the governor to take quick action, but those days are long past. Here we're in the 11th month now of emergency powers, and the governor is whipping these emergency orders out at the rapid pace of about one every 30 days. So there's no emergency. Is there a serious pandemic going on? Absolutely. And it requires us to be involved in that response just as it does the governor. the point that I wanted to make for all of us to think about, and this isn't to be partisan or ideological, but just think about this. Representative Liz Lagarde's suggestion would be that the Senate could block anything. There's a 1-vote margin in the Senate right now. So what you're saying is that you don't think the governor should have to convince one single Republican that his ideas or his orders are good or okay, and you don't think he can do that? You don't think that one single Republican in the Senate would agree with an executive order? And I mean, to me, when I started to think about what you said and what the actual real world implications, it was just kind of like, oh my gosh, are we really in this place where we don't think the governor should have to convince one single Republican, and that this should be bipartisan with just one person from the other side of the aisle agreeing with the governor? Are we really working together? Are we really wanting to work together? I think that executive orders for the public health of this state should rise to a high enough level that they should be bipartisan. There isn't anybody trying to block people from being safe. We all want to keep Minnesotans safe, but we all want to have a voice in that. And the most frustrating part for me, and I think Barb Haley, and I know we're all hearing it and we're all feeling it, because our constituents don't feel like they have a voice. And it's frustrating for me because I don't know what to tell my constituents when they call me. I try. I personally have offered 7 times to end the emergency powers on the House floor. Nobody has done it more than I. But we haven't taken that action. We've been blocked from doing that. And so I think it should be bipartisan. And Representative Haley's, to make it bipartisan, her provision only suggests that the governor would have to convince one Republican in the Senate. Think about that. One Republican. Now think of all the names of the people that he would have to convince. I bet he could get one. And if he can't, the orders should end. If he can't convince one single Republican that those are good for the public health and safety of Minnesotans, then the orders should end. And that's what this is all about. But it will give us a voice. It will give us a voice. And I know I didn't mean to go on long here. I know we're going to have further conversation. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Representative Freiberg.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Really just want to add one brief point of clarification. There's been an implication that the legislature has no ability to act under our current system. You know, it's worth mentioning here that if there are any executive orders that the legislature disagrees with, the legislature has the ability to currently override any of them by law. If the governor should veto that law, well, the legislature has the ability to override the veto. It's just, you know, it's worth keeping in mind here that there is like a standard legislative process spelled out in the state constitution that could apply to any of these. And that's all I wanted to say.
Representative Moran.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I guess, you know, to better understand Representative Haley's bill. So you stated that after your amendment, that after 30 days, any old executive orders that has been placed by the governor would be null and void, right? They will go away.
Representative Haley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Representative Moran. The executive orders that are currently in place and anything that would be promulgated up until February 27th, we would have until March 13th to affirm those executive orders individually. We could take each one, affirm them. If the legislature did not affirm them by a majority vote in both bodies, then that individual executive order would go away. That would end.
Representative
Does that help?
Mr. Chair, so I'm sorry, bear with me. Mm-hmm. You say if both bodies did not confirm it, they would go away.
Then it would expire. Yes.
It would. They would expire.
Not all of them. Again, we have the opportunity to take each one individually and consider them individually.
Okay, I'm trying to, thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm trying to understand how we would take, you know, them individually, but after 30 days, they automatically expired, right? If we don't happen, they just expire and then there is no more executive orders in place, right? It's no, we take them one by one, they just go away, correct?
Representative Haley.
The legislature would be able to debate on the floor and vote up or down on an individual executive order. If we did not vote to affirm that, it would expire. And maybe it'd be helpful to just paint the picture. We're talking about 40 executive orders that are what we're currently operating under, 40 that are currently in effect. Of those 40, 28 are regulatory flexibility that we gave to agencies. And probably things that if we sat down and looked at them, and I have done that, we could probably check and say, this one needs to continue, that needs to continue. You know, things like being able to get the marriage license that we did on the floor the other day remotely. Check, check, check. We could probably do those 28. The remaining ones are the 2101 that is the business capacity issues. One related to masks, one related to the eviction moratorium, 6 related to schools, 2 related to workplace protections, and that's it. So we can do this work, folks. I am very confident we can do this work. I have poured through these. I have talked to the long-term care folks. I have talked to the hospital associations. I've talked to the providers. We can figure out those 28 that we, extend or provide flexibility. I am really confident we can do this work.
So, Mr. Chair, Representative Haley, I wish I was as confident as you that we can do this, but I do think that, for the public who did not know that we are a part-time legislature, and then over the summer and into the fall and into the winter, we were not in, we are not a working legislature, but this is our opportunity. This is a test right now about who we are as a legislature in the House and the Senate to come to some agreement around something or anything. And my hope is that it will be fantastic if we can come to some agreement around something or anything. But, as, Listergaard, Representative Listergaard, who's been working really hard to represent his district, has stated that, and as I heard Representative Samstad, who's been working so hard to represent her district, is that, I too wish this was just about the governor, but it's not. It's about a pandemic, right? It is about a deadly pandemic. We just have some executive orders that comes from those professionals that you've been speaking with, who have said to us, if we want to save lives, we need to do some basic things. Wear a mask, wash your hands, social distance. And we have not been able to fully, around the state, to take hold of that. My constituents have been emailing me to say, work really hard to ensure that we're keeping each other safe. Work really hard to make sure that my mother is going to be safe, who have pre-existing condition, that my grandmother will be safe, and we know this disease, this virus doesn't have any predictor on age. So my hope is that in this moment in time, we're in a moment right now because we're back open to do the work of the people, that we can find some way to work together and keep residents across the state of Minnesota safe. I understand all of those concepts that we've been talking about, but it is a virus that doesn't have any, eyes and choose who it impacts. This is not just about you or me saying, I'm okay. It travels. And how it impacts you is different how it impacts the next person. And, I'm from this place and belief that we are our brother's keepers. That this is not just about me as an individual. This is me looking out for you and so many other people. And so we have an obligation to move quickly to call in, emergencies. And this is, We have not always been able to do that. When we've never been able to do that as a legislative body, especially a divided legislative body. And so this is our opportunity. We're doing it now. People are bringing bills forward. We're working it through the body, but I want people to know that we have not had this opportunity to do this at the legislature because we have not been, a legislature have been open for business. But the number one priority is to realize there is a string out there that is coming our way. And we better be ready and prepared to do all that we can to do to make sure that residents across the state of Minnesota are going to be safe. And we're doing the minimum: mask wearing, washing your hands, social distancing. There's a cost to that if we don't. So thank you, Mr. Chair.
Representative Haley, Representative Haley, you want to respond?
Thank you, Chair Pulaski, and thank you, Representative Moran. And just to comment briefly, nothing in my bill suggests that I don't want people to be safe as well. And nothing in my bill says that all the emergency powers have to go away. What my bill says is that we have the discussion and we decide then how to move forward. Nothing in my bill takes away the governor's power right now to act in a split second if that need arises. Nothing in my bill takes that away. What my bill does is brings you to the table, Representative Moran, so that we can work together. Thank you.
Representative Lizigar.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And Minority Leader Doubt brought up, some good points, but I guess my question would be, does the Senate even have to take it up or vote on it? When you said he only has to do get one person, well, how do we even know that it will even be voted on? I mean, is it, answer me this, does the Senate have to vote on something we send over, or could they just not vote so there would be no opportunity to get the Republican leadership to take it up? I don't know if Mr. Chair, if Barb or Minority Leader Doubt would like to answer that one.
Let's go to Representative Haley because it's her legislation.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
I'll actually let Leader Doubt, because he had kind of drilled into a sequence of events. So I'll let you take that if you want.
All right, Representative Doubt.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Representative Lizigar. If there's a majority of votes, you can bring something up. Right now, that's our problem in the House, is we don't have a majority of members who want to even bring up the vote to end the emergency powers. And that's what we do in the House right now, is the Rule 4.3 is to try to pull it from committee with a majority of members' votes. And I know over the summer or fall and winter, you were voting with us to bring it up, to talk about it. But right now, it just, because of Rule 4.3, it only requires a majority of members because we're in regular session, not special session. So there is a way to get it to the floor with just a majority of votes. I assume the same thing is the case in the Senate. And when you've got a majority of members that want to vote on something and want to pass it, that you can figure out a way to do it. And in the Senate, a majority of members could be every Democrat member and only one Republican member. So that's all it would take. And the only reason I brought that up was just so that we literally thought about, right now it's one governor running everything. And I think you could argue that one party is, because from my perspective, and I don't mean this to be partisan and don't take it as an insult, it's just how we feel. And I think it's important for you to understand how we feel. We feel that Democrats in the House are blocking us from having a voice. So you're saying you think that if we change the scenario that Republicans in the Senate could block it, but really all it would take is one Republican in the state of Minnesota to agree with an executive order for it to stay in place. And I think that's an important distinction.
Representative Lizigar.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. But Minority Leader Doubt, you are saying that in a sense, they do not have to take it up in the very issue that we had. And you were right. For 7 months in a row, I wanted this conversation. We did have a select committee, and I was able to bring some of my businesses to share their concerns because I was extremely frustrated with the process and not having my voice heard. Make no mistake about it. But I also always said that I don't believe that all the emergency powers need to go away. I believe that some of them save lives. I believe that some of them will continue to save lives. Which ones? This is what we need to talk about. Is this process foolproof? It is not, by no means. But what I think is going to happen, and Representative Garofalo, I mean, you should be happy with what I offered, because it would be put on us. It would be put on us, exactly what Representative Garofalo said. And I would like to ask you this, or I'll wait for your bill, or even Representative Haley. Do you believe what some of the executive orders save lives? It's a simple question. Do you believe some of the executive orders save lives?
Representative Haley, do you wish to respond?
Representative Lislegard, I believe that I stood up on the floor of the House when this first started and supported the governor. I publicly said that. We are in a very, very different place today than we were a year ago. Right now, it's as much of an emergency to me that the legislature has no voice. As my testifiers said, they have nowhere to go with their grievances with these orders. Not all of them need to go away. I'll sit down with any of you and go through this list and find the pathway forward. It's not that they all go away. There are some things we've learned from COVID, frankly, like telehealth has been an amazing advancement that we didn't think we'd hit for years. There's been some great things that have happened in telehealth that we need to continue. And those have probably saved lives, Representative Lislegard. But we haven't been able to make those determinations as a body. And that is the problem. As Dr. I call her Kate, Dr. Kate said, we need to get to a dialogue. And we've had a monologue for 11 months. When does that change? And is that not the purview of this committee, is to put forth a process for that to change? To my knowledge today, this bill is the first time a process has been forward to change this from a monologue to a dialogue.
Representative Lislegard.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I totally agree. That is why I voted 7 times in a row. But this committee, and that is why we're here. And what you said is some of the executive orders did save lives, and you listed one, right? Well, so we work on it. So we work on it and we agree, and then it goes over to the Senate, and all of a sudden they don't like it. It's just gone. There is no recourse for what we feel as a body. So that's my concern. I'll continue to work with you, and hopefully we can find a pathway through. But I'm just not comfortable giving everything up. And I guarantee you what, as God is my witness, if I wasn't on this committee and we weren't having these discussions and we weren't forging our way through having these tough conversations, I would be voting to suspend the rules, to take it up and have that dialogue. This is what this committee is for, and this is what we need to continue to do. But it seems to me that if we do what you're proposing without you or anyone willing to do what I'm asking, to allow one of the bodies who's very passionate and sees things differently to extend that executive order, then it's very difficult not to continue to move forward. So thank you so much for everything that you do, Representative Haley.
Representative O'Neill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just have more of a question of procedure. You had said at the beginning of this hearing that we wouldn't actually be taking a vote on this bill, and I'm wondering why that decision was made. And after we've had this incredible discussion, I'm wondering if you would reconsider that decision, allow us to actually vote on this bill. It seems like we're about ready to vote on something, and just wondering if we could do that.
Representative O'Neill and members, I had said at the very beginning of these hearings, I had hoped to build a consensus to work through drafts or legislation, and that we would come to a point where we would be able to put together something that would represent the entire committee. Whatever we do is going to go up to rules. I would like to see it pass from rules. So at this point, I'm still in the process, and the committee is still in the process of collecting information and trying to put together something that we can have go through rules and to whichever other committee it might have to go through or to the floor.
Mr. Chair.
Yep. Representative O'Neill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So you're not interested in having a vote until we have a full consensus on the bill? I'm not sure. Do you have a vision of how we get there? Because this bill seems like the most reasonable thing that we've talked about in 11 months. And I'm not quite sure, even after listening to all of the debate, much of which had nothing to do with the actual underlying language of the bill, there be, however that is. But I'm just wondering, how do you envision us to get to any kind of consensus? Because this seems like one of the most reasonable things we could ask for, and there is pushback. Just wondering what your thoughts are.
Representative O'Neill and members of the committee, there's another part to Chapter 12, Chapters 12A and 2B. And I was intimately involved in creating both of them. Before I even introduced a bill, there were a dozen drafts. Those drafts went through at least 13 different agencies, local units of government, before the bill was introduced. I would prefer to work on something in this committee where we would have options available to us that we could put something together that would have at least a commonality that the members of the committee would say, all right, we will move forward. So that's the procedure that I told the speaker when she wanted this committee to take this on. That's how I wanted to move forward. Representative O'Neill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Okay, so if I'm understanding you correctly, and until the Republicans agree with the Democrats, we can't move forward, because it seems like there hasn't been a whole lot of movement towards compromise. So that's kind of what I'm hearing, because you've got some members that are very, very entrenched and stuck in with the ideology of what's been happening for 11 months, and they don't want anything to change, and they don't want to participate in that change. And so I'm incredibly disappointed. I'll just leave it at that.
Representative O'Neill, I think we're all frustrated at this point on a number of things. Representative Haley. Representative Haley.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, to Representative O'Neill's point, what do you see as the time frame? This is our third or fourth committee meeting, I'm not sure. We meet once a week. We don't meet twice a week or 3 times a week. What do we say to our constituents as to how long is this going to take before we can give them some answers?
Representative Haley, there is no time frame. We are in limitations, and the limitations come about because of the medium that we're using and the stress that we have on staff. We have seen that stress play out with the revisor's office. We've also seen it play out with our staff, who are working primarily from home, just as testifiers had said today. So I don't have a particular time frame. I'm hopeful that when we get bills this week from a variety of members, we will be able to come to some type of an agreement. And I would hope it's a bipartisan agreement, not just an agreement by one party or the other. So the first bill we've heard here is Representative Haley's bill, and that is not a bill by the majority party. Representative Doubt has a proposal that I don't think we're going to have time, Representative Doubt, to go through it today, but we could start if you wish. So Representative Haley, that's the best answer I can give you now. We are all working under limitations.
And Chair Pawlowski, I appreciate that. But I also, the frustration is boiling over. Business owners are working under stress. Parents are working under stress. Kids are working under stress. We owe it to them. I will work day and night to move this forward. We've done that before. I worked in a bipartisan fashion with Representative Baker and folks on your side of the aisle to pass business relief. We worked day and night for 2.5 weeks and we got it done. This is our time. And I joined this committee at your request, and you and I have a good relationship. We share a common part of the state. We share an interest in kids and workforce. I signed on to your bill last week to help you get money for CTE teachers. So I know we can work together, Chair Pawlowski. And when I joined this committee, I did so at your request and with the understanding that we did have a long-term project, rewriting Chapter 12. It's complicated, and you have the history with that, and you are respected on both sides of the aisle to do that work. But we also have a short-term emergency that is as emergent as the one that the governor's controlling with the virus. Businesses are, people are, their livelihoods are dying. And every day that we sit here and talk around the problem is not going to help them. Children are suffering. And the science today, to use the governor's words, the science today says move forward. So when are we going to do that?
Representative Haley, over the course of this year, we've had 7 special sessions in which we could not do what we're doing today. Having a discussion at a level with a variety of members of both sides of the aisle and constituents as to what we are going to do. That process is the process of this committee, and it will continue. And as I've said before, we are all frustrated and we are all under limitations, and we all have to work within both. Representative Lizagard.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and to Representative Haley, you have my commitment that if you accept my amendment, I will vote for your bill. If that is included, where either body can extend the executive order, I will vote for your bill. So, and until then, until we get to that process and we work through all this frustration, I'm going to continue to bring bills forward that are going to benefit, relieve, hopefully, some of the issues that our small businesses and the people of this state are facing within the power that I'm allowed. So thank you so much. You have my commitment. You accept that amendment, and I will vote for your bill.
Members, I have one more person. Representative Pinto has been waiting. Representative Pinto.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thanks to all for the discussion. I have a bunch of questions that I think would take more time than the 3 minutes available, and so maybe I'll just note, Mr. Chair, and all that we are in a war has been alluded to repeatedly. Wars can be, and this one certainly is, long and grinding. The front lines of this war are right at home, in some cases literally at home, and in our hospitals and our nursing homes, and yes, in our bars and our restaurants, our fitness centers, and all over our community. We can be very proud that the work that has been done over the past 11 months, of a number of references to that time period, has caused us to have lower per capita rates of infection than the states that are around. We are surrounded by states with much higher levels than us. And even despite that, we have managed to have lower rates. And I'm not aware of any way in which there's been a worse economic situation in our state than in those other states, recognizing that, of course, there are again, with the front lines of this war being in our businesses and our homes, that we all are suffering, and there's a tremendous amount of pain and a tremendous amount of stress. And we have to always remember that pain and that stress caused by our response to the virus, and we need to remember that the cause of it ultimately is the virus. And the steps that have been taken for the past 11 months have in fact helped to get us to a spot right now where infection rates are certainly lower than they've been at other periods. And yet we know that there have been spikes, and that can turn on a dime. And what concerns me in this discussion is, and I absolutely credit Representative Haley for her work, and I do not doubt her sincerity and her intentions. But I will say that it feels disingenuous, recognizing that her intentions are pure, so maybe that's not the right word. But the fact is, it's been said repeatedly that the desire of Representative Haley and many others, and we certainly know the votes in the Senate, are to end the peacetime emergency. And the effect of this bill, by giving one chamber a veto power in the way that's set up, is to have it be that the peacetime emergency ends, because the people who are doing that voting have said repeatedly that they want the emergency to end, and that eliminates all the executive orders. So, Mr. Chair and members, there is a process that's going on right now to say, what do we do to get executive orders and legislation. As Representative Freiberg said, all the way along, the legislature certainly has the power, of course, to step into the regular legislative process, and we can do that. But in the meantime, boy, let's not let our defenses drop in the meantime. And to have, under Moore say, well, in 2 weeks, if the general's orders aren't approved in this way, well, then I guess they just go away. You have to tie it to what's happening on the ground and tying it to health measures and everything else. And that certainly this does not do. I know we'll continue to have discussion. And when we do, I sure hope that we do have testimony and input from health experts and many others, because we are going to need that as we're assessing this decision. Mr. Chair and members, thank you very much.
Members, we're at 2:30. Representative Dowd, I apologize. We did not get to your proposal. I have it in front of me. Members, we will keep you informed as to what the agenda will be next week. It will include Representative Dowd, but I also think it's going to include at least 1 or 2 more bills to take a look at. So with that today, thank you all members, and meeting is adjourned.